From Yellow Frame Productions and The Mean Word, this is Bella Bella, How Nature Solved a Suicide Crisis. I'm Juliana McGraw. In Canada, First Nations communities have twice the amount of suicides than the national average. However, that statistic can vary from community to community. Some communities may have a larger number of suicides, and some may have very little. Bella Bella, a small Indigenous community that sits atop the Great Bear Rainforest in British Columbia, is a community that hasn't had a single suicide in nearly 15 years. 30 years ago, however, they were on the other side of the spectrum, with approximately one suicide per month. How did one community go from one of the largest suicide capitals in the country to having almost no suicides? Larry Jorgensen is joining me over the phone to talk about how he helped heal Bella Bella. First, he'll paint a picture of what Bella Bella was like when he first arrived.
Well, there was a lot of, I would say, dysfunction. There was a fair amount of sort of open drinking, and there was probably a lot of abuse of various types going on because people were drinking. There was no generation that hadn't been to residential school, so nobody really knew how to parent very well. So a lot of the chiefs in those days didn't even know they were chiefs. You know, there was just a total sort of breakdown. The band had very little control over its own resources and services, and they were just in the process of opening the first sort of school here that was going to be run by the Celtic and not by DIA or INAC. And so, yeah, it was a little bit edgy, kind of rough. There was a hotel on reserve, and so all the fishermen came here and partied and fought, and you know, it was just a lot of wildness, if you will. And there was a lot of good people here, a lot of very strong women who were trying to hold the community together. Most of the men, pretty well all the men, fished, and so were away for 6 months of the year. When they came home, they didn't work, they cut firewood and drank. And there were lots of good old men and lots of good old ladies. The old ladies sort of kept the place from completely falling apart.
Alcohol was a big problem, as it is in many northern communities. Some communities have gone so far as to ban all sales of alcohol. Despite the fact that people of Bella Bella had to travel to get alcohol, it was still prevalent, even among the youth, resulting in more loss for the community.
The young people who were also kind of caught up in drinking and that sort of stuff. There wasn't a lot of drugs in those days, but there was certainly lots of alcohol. You had to go to a neighboring community by boat, which was about an hour and a half, to get alcohol. So there was a lot of accidents.
The chiefs and high-ranking women believed that their people needed to reconnect with the land. Larry had success in other communities, so the chiefs recruited him, hoping he would have success in Bella Bella.
I was recruited by our umoxes, our high-ranking women, and some of our more intact chiefs, just to start working with the young people and to try to turn things around a bit for them. I think we were the suicide capital of Canada in those days. There was over a dozen kids in 12 months. I think a lot of people were frustrated and sad.
When Larry arrived at Bella Bella, he found out how the youth were attempting suicide, which he describes as violent. These violent suicides actually attracted friends of the youth to do the same so they could be together.
A lot of the suicide attempts among teenagers were violent attempts. You know, I mean, I grew up and know a lot about non-Indigenous societies, and I know that kids everywhere, you know, take 10 Tylenol or cut themselves or, you know, do adolescent things. But in those days, the adolescent acting out was very violent acting out. So it was somebody hanging themselves in the basement of their house or blowing their head off with a shotgun. It was a very trauma-related thing, and because of it was so trauma-related, of course your peers, want to go and join you and be with you, and so you have this sort of group contagion effect of young people, saying they want to die to go and see their friends or to see their family, and it was pretty chaotic, to say the least.
It was always the vision of the elders and the chiefs to reconnect with the land, but it was Larry's background that helped develop the programs and ideas, and perhaps the fact that Larry never believed in sitting down with someone for 1 hour a week, but would rather be active in helping them.
So, I was kind of looking at ways that we could turn things around a little bit, but it was really the vision of the chiefs and elders, this idea that we have to reconnect with our roots. We've lost our culture. We are losing our land now. The forest companies are coming in. The fish are getting depleted. There was just a whole bunch of things going on, and quite frankly, I never had much faith in the hour-a-week counseling thing. I was much more of an active person, I guess. I had worked in numerous places with disturbed kids across the country and in mental health clinics, and so I recognized the limits of that approach to working with young people, and so I would just take people and get in the boat and go out on the land for a couple of weeks. It wasn't long till the chiefs, sort of saw the wisdom of their vision, I guess, and said, look, why don't you raise some money and go and build a cabin here? If you're going to be taking kids on the land, let's establish our presence in this watershed so it has people there and makes it harder for forest companies to come and deforest all of our territory. And one thing just kind of led to another, I guess, and that sort of approach just kept getting developed.
Early on, Larry was asked to intervene with the court system, as the system they had wasn't working in rehabilitating anyone. Larry used restorative justice, which is a type of justice that repairs the harm caused by crime. When victims, offenders, and community members meet to decide how to do that, the results can be transformational. And in Bella Bella's case, they were.
One of the early things they asked me to do was to intervene with the court system. We had, a sort of one of those traveling courts that came here every 8 or 10 weeks, and there was always something, and the kids that did go before the court had no idea what to do with them, and so would send them off to a detention center in Vancouver or someplace. So anyway, that was one of the first things that I took the task of rearranging a little bit, and we established what is called restorative justice, but it's not classic restorative justice where you have talking and healing circles and do all that kind of resolution. It's really where the community takes over the justice and then goes to the court and said, look, we've got a way better plan than you do for this kid. We've known him since he was a baby. We know what happened to him. We know what he needs. And here's what we think we can do as a community to mitigate that. And that may be sending him out on the land for 6 months to stay in one of these cabins in isolation. When he gets back, he may have to go out for resident treatment for 8 weeks. He's then going to be enrolled in the adult education of our college, or he's going to become a mentor to one of our chiefs and go out on this fish boat with him. Their family has said they will support it. So the families then have to go out while they're in isolation and cut wood and visit them. And so you start kind of rebuilding families as well. So that was one of the first kind of things that we did, got people out, and those young men and women often came back not viewing that time out there as a negative punishment kind of thing, but as an amazing experience. Some cases they were virtually transformed.
Larry's somewhat unique beliefs on how to help youth in crisis were beginning to spark a change. Young people were given new experiences and walking away with a new outlook and new friends.
It was basically the idea, for me personally, the idea was that I can't do anything to intervene with a young person. when he's in the middle of his crisis. I need to move him or her, or get them somewhere different, or be in a place where they're not so much in control, even though they seem out of control. They're very much in control. And so taking them out on the land where suddenly you're dependent on other people for heat and food and transportation, where you have a different peer group perhaps with you. Some of the groups I would take out would be not the kids that you would normally hang around with, so you'd be creating new sort of shared experiences that you really didn't have with anybody else.
Larry and others decided that they wanted to do more. And with some help, they now have various programs, camps, and activities getting people on the land.
Decided that we would really go after this, and so instead of working under the chiefs advised that we set up a non-profit society to raise money and to try to fund projects that would support our youth and our culture and our environment, and make sure that we could mix those three together appropriately. So we've, acquired cabins and places, and now we have youth programs all over, and cooks. It doesn't have to be the one taking them out on the land. All of the agencies now in our community have programs to get people on berry picking and village sites, to get kids out of the land. They sponsor sexual safety camps down at our lodge for young women. They have a teen addictions camp where the kids live in a big house out on a remote place. So we got there because it kind of worked, taking people out of their kind of negative environment and giving them a new space. It created new peer groups, it changed families. There was a whole bunch of things that, went along with having people out on the land.
The people of Bella Bella are now helping their resource management department and also incorporating culture into that.
I think the beauty of it is that we have such a broad mandate. We do grizzly bear DNA work, and we do electronic tagging of fish, and all of these things that contribute, if you will, to the nation's ability to manage its resources. So all of the things that we do are things that our resource management department, which is 30, 40 people now, have indicated would help them to make better management decisions. So our job then is to find a way to integrate culture and youth with that resource management kind of mandate. And so, if we're doing electronic fish tagging, for instance, we'll build or have our young people build a traditional fish weir across the river. We'll then, get some grad students and some Celtic technicians, and we'll get the kids from the camp up at the weir measuring fish and injecting tags and doing that sort of stuff. And we'll take the data and the results of that and send it off to our resource management people, and so they then have a better idea of sargai population.
Instead of focusing on just one large problem, Larry focused on other problems as well. And in that endeavor, he has been very successful.
It's a way of sort of trying to integrate a whole bunch of things together and not focusing on a specific problem, if you will. Yes, we had a youth suicide problem, but we had lots of other problems. And so you can't just focus on one thing. You have to sort of move forward.
Larry fell in love with the town of Bella Bella and moved there permanently years ago, even marrying one of the locals. It's safe to say that Bella Bella has had quite the turnaround. This has been The Mean Word with Yellow Frame Productions.